The 12 Months, a Czech fairy tale. Deep in the woods stood a wooden cottage. It was the severest and coldest winter. There was no respite from the biting cold. There lived in that cottage a lady with her own daughter and a stepdaughter, by name Jana. No human being or beast stirred outside. Such was the cold. The lady doted on her own daughter but was harsh and wicked towards the stepdaughter, Jana. The lady's daughter spent time indolently, reclining on her bed all the time, especially in winter, while Jana watered the garden, drew water from the well, swept the floor and scrubbed clothes in the spring. However much her body ached and however wearied she was, Jana couldn't have a moment of rest. She had to serve and wait on her stepmother and stepsister. One evening, when there was a blizzard and when a cold storm raged outside the hut, the stepmother drove Jana out to fetch a basket of snowdrops. No one gets snowdrops in January. One had to wait till March for snowdrops. But the heartless and cruel stepmother drove Jana out of the warmth of the hut, into open, when a vicious blizzard was raging without any let up. If the lady was cruel, her daughter was even more so. She said to Jana curtly,
"Mind you, don't come back in a hurry. Even if you never return, no one here is going to shed tears for you. No one here is going to miss you. Don't come back without a basket full of snowdrops."
It meant that poor Jana would have to linger on in the biting cold of the forest till March, when snowdrops would grow. Jana threw a scarf over her shoulder and ventured into the forest with a basket. The stepmother and her own daughter were snug, cozy, and warm by fireside inside the cottage, while Jana was freezing in biting cold. That was her destiny and lot. Trudging on in the forest, she presently saw a brilliant light. It looked as though a star had fallen off the sky and got enmeshed in a tree branch. Fortunately for Jana, the light kept burning. When Jana got close to the light, she saw that it was a bonfire, and around the bonfire sat 12 men. 3 of them were old men, 3 middle-aged, 3 were youths and 3 were mere boys. They were chatting among themselves. Those 12 men represented the 12 months of the year. Their voices were so low, she could only hear an indistinct murmur but could make out nothing of their talk. There was an old man, the oldest among the 12 men. He was seated on a snowdrift. He was the first one to see Jana. Jana, in fear, wanted to turn back, but it was too late. She said to the old man,
"I am a hapless girl. My stepmother has chased me out of home to fetch a basket full of snowdrops. She has told me not to return without snowdrops, no matter however long it might take. There is no one at home to shed a tear for me if I were to freeze to death in the forest."
The old man asked,
"But if you don't get snowdrops, what will you do?"
Jana replied tersely,
"We'll sit here and await my end."
The 12 men, on hearing Jana, were too moved by her plight. They talked among themselves for a while. But Jana didn't understand a word of what they said. At last, one of them, the month of March, stepped forward to January, and said,
"Please let me have an hour of your time so this hapless girl could have what she wants. If she doesn't get snowdrops, she is sure to freeze to death, as she can't return without snowdrops."
January thought for a while. He too appreciated the unenviable plight of Jana. But February had to have his sway before March had his. For an hour the biting cold of January became a thing of the past. There was a sea change. The forbidding snowdrifts disappeared. The icicles which had been hanging from tree branches disappeared too. There was no snow to be seen on the ground. One now found a carpet of earth and lovely flowers, the flowers which had been so elusive in January. March told Yana.
January has been good enough to let me have sway for just an hour only. Before winter returns, make haste and collect a basket full of snowdrops.
Yana swung into action and collected snowdrops and filled her basket. When she looked up, the 12 men had disappeared, so had the snowdrift on which January was seated. There was not a single soul she could thank. The 12 men representing the 12 months, indeed, had obliged her by changing the season itself. They hadn't done so ever before. They had done so for Yana, out of pity for the sufferings inflicted on Yana by a heartless stepmother. Yana quickly went home. The stepmother and stepsister asked Yana where was the hurry to return without the snowdrops. Yana said nothing but spread out the snowdrops that she had collected on the table. The mother and daughter couldn't believe their eyes. Whoever could bring snowdrops in severe winter? Yana recounted her encounter with the 12 men representing the 12 months. The stepsister blasted Yana that as the 12 months were so obliging, she could have demanded apples, pears, cucumber, and lots of other things which grew in different seasons. She called Yana a fool and said that the 12 months couldn't fool her by just giving a basket of snowdrops. What was their value anyway, she asked. Then Yana's stepsister set out to meet the 12 months and fetch apples, pears, and other nice fruits. She set out of the cottage much better shielded against the biting cold and the blizzard. She covered herself with a woolen shawl and wore on her head a scarf before she set out. She followed the footprints of her sister and made it to the forest clearing, braving the blizzard and biting cold. Like her sister before her, she too saw the brilliant light which seemed to beckon her. When she got close to the light, like her sister, she too saw that it was a bonfire around which sat 12 men. She recalled her sister telling her that they were the 12 months of the year. When Yana's stepsister reached the forest clearing, sure enough, January was seated on the snowdrift. Yana's sister, without any hesitation, settled down cozily near the bonfire and didn't feel the need to ask anyone for permission. When January, seated on the snowdrift, asked who she was and what she wanted, she said she wanted apples, pears, cucumber, and the like, all alone. When January said they didn't grow in his season, the girl curtly said he was not the one she came to see. The enraged January caused such a snowstorm and blizzard that she was literally frozen to death, and snow piled up over her and killed her. When the girl's mother, Yana's stepmother, grew anxious about her daughter, she set out of the cottage herself, warmly covered. Once out of her cottage, she froze in the blizzard, and died of biting cold. Thus, the wicked stepmother, and her more wicked daughter, met the fate they deserved. As for the good and patient Yana, she married. She, her husband and her children lived in comfort and peace, in the very cottage, where her wretched stepmother had lived not long ago. If you enjoyed this story, you can find more in this channel. Please like and subscribe. Thank you and have a good time.